There's Aerith, of course, which I think she won't die in this game. I made a video about that in the game. Yeah, I think she will survive this game, you know. Okay, yeah, exactly. This is canon, exactly. So that's, as I said earlier, it's probably meet Yuffie, right? Exactly. I think we can be right in that. We don't see Yuffie in the trailer, but I feel that's probably the. There she is. I was just saying that. Where's Yuffie? I was just saying that. We don't see Yuffie in the trailer. She pops in there. I was just saying that. Yeah, I was just saying that. I think this we're gonna recruit Yuffie, right? Yeah, and then she finally. Alright, there she is. Getting a lot of screen time suddenly. But I was just saying that. I haven't seen Yuffie yet, but I think this will be. So let's break down FF7 Rebirth trailer. So, hello everyone, I'm Modern here. I actually worked on FF7 Remake, which I pointed out, guys. But I didn't work on Rebirth though. So I'm excited to see this trailer now. I haven't seen it yet. It was released when I was sleeping, woke up, saw everyone already react to it or whatever. So I'm gonna go in here instead. I'm gonna look at each frame, right, and discuss what they mean in the gameplay. Where is it in the game so more? Because I played FF7 many times, and you know, I have a little bit of experience from, of course, having worked on FF7 Remake, right? And of course, I'm a huge fan, right, of Final Fantasy games, JRPGs in general. So more than stuff is a scrap song, right? For example, I reviewed Octopath Traveler 2, which I still think is one of the best games this year. So yeah, Octopath Traveler is just an amazing game. So links below for that review. I really love that game. But anyway, F16 of course coming very soon. I'll say one thing here before we go into this trailer. Sony, they get me each time right with that exclusiveness. Because when I was a kid, I bought PlayStation 2 so I could play FF10, right? When F15 was out, I bought PS4, etc. I get the point, and I still doesn't actually own a PS5, but I'm buying one right now this week so I can have one to play FF16. Which I already ordered the FF16, you know, deluxe edition here, right? So I actually bought FF16 before I bought the PS5. So I know my Final Fantasy, I'm addicted, okay? Anyway, let's read the trailer. I'm gonna do a reaction first then, but whatever, I haven't seen it yet. And then we talk about each frame, each scene. And I am, for that matter, of course, wearing my favorite Final Fantasy 12 t-shirts, right? You see it here, you got the patch, you got the feelings. I like the shirt, guys. It's like, I like shirts that have the juxtapositioning, right? So it's like black on one side, white on the other. You can see the characters here, you know. I don't know. Anyway,
the scene of this terrible disaster.
okay, so of course they. Yeah, this is after they destroyed. So you leave Midgard, right? Yeah, so you're leaving Midgard. That is coming out there. That's red, I guess. What's Aerith? What? But we have escaped though. That's weird. Okay, we'll go back and look later. They definitely are shades in the storyline though, of course they are. But they were like that, they missed another time version of it. And there's Aerith, of course, which I think she won't die in this game. I made a video about that in the game. Yeah, I think she will survive this game, you know. Honestly, I think so. Because it's only time travel. Red better be playable, okay? If Red's not playable, I'm suing. I was like, that was the worst thing in Remake. What was that, guys? Why wasn't Red playable? Okay, so this is open world story, right? Much better, yeah. That's what's lacking, of course, in the last game. And I think we can see more of that, hopefully. Because I was very critical. Even though I worked in that game, I was critical, yeah, you know. Oh, Chocobo. Oh, there has to be when you get the first Chocobo before the snake is. Probably, yeah, after Midgard. And this is more of the whole planet, and this is probably more story on Yenova and eating planets and so on, you know, the parasite thing, yeah. Because there's the order, like... Oh, is this a cave when you, after the snake, probably we meet the Turks? I think so. This is probably meet Yuffie. Yeah, this is probably between we... This game probably goes to the... I would guess the Rebirth goes to Aerith dies, probably. You know, spoilers. Sorry, spoilers, guys, spoilers, yeah. So, guys, spoilers. And, here is... What's this thing now? It has to be the boss after. It has to be the boss in the cave after you leave Midgard with a snake. This is, of course, the Turks now. Yeah. She may be new. She's a new girl, but you know, she's pretty powerful. And this is when you meet the Turks and so on. Yeah, this is just the beginning of the game, I think. This is most beginning of the game. Oh, that's nice. Can I have the back-to-back thing there? So that's really nice. And this is probably before the cave. I think what we've seen so far is like the cave. Yeah, exactly. This is the canon, exactly. So that's, as I said earlier, it's probably meet Yuffie, right? Exactly. I think we can be right in that. We don't see Yuffie in the trailer, But I feel that's probably the she is. I just saying it, where's Yuffie? I was just saying that. We don't see Yuffie in the trailer, she pops in there. I was just saying that, yeah, I was just saying that I think that's when you're gonna recruit Yuffie, right? Yeah, and then she finally arrived, there she is. Getting a lot of screen time suddenly. But I was just saying that, I've never seen Yuffie yet, but I think this we're gonna pick her up. This is like, you know, it has to be her second fight with her, right? Her weird tentacular monster form. Then goes the furthest back. Keep seeing that. It's a pretty long trailer. Yeah, it's like 3.5 minutes. Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, then of course this teeth at all. Okay, so I bring it down, guys. I love the part of Yuffie up here. I was just saying that, like, oh, I think you recruit Yuffie. So, of course, I played this game many times. If you haven't played FF7, sorry for the spoilers, no. But one thing that is a big thing with FF7 is that Yuffie, of course, comes and stuff and so on. But you can actually recruit Yuffie, right? And that's one thing that is really cool with FF7, that Yuffie is like a random encounter, right? After the cave, I keep talking about, because the game really is centered around. The game is very centered around this cave, right? So you have this cave that comes in after Midgard. So there's some cities. There's this desert with a snake. You can Chocobo, so on. And I felt most of the trailer was kind of centered around that cave, either in the cave or just before or after the cave, right? That's basically what the trailer was mostly. So after you leave the cave, then there you can meet Yuffie as a random encounter, right? So let's break it down. But I think that when I first said that, exactly here it is, pretty good, man. So this is here probably where you can meet Yuffie, right? You know, I wonder if you're gonna have the same like last time. But basically, this should be used after you leave the cave, and you have the fort where you can use the minigame and so on. So I think this is the area, right? We're cloud running right now. This is probably the area where you can meet Yuffie. But again, I keep saying, I'm really interested to see if they're gonna keep that random encounter thing, because the game doesn't have random encounters, right? So that's gonna be really interesting to me, how they're gonna make this Yuffie thing go. I honestly think you're just gonna pick her up from the storyline, right? So we see Cloud running here, and again, this is probably where you would meet Yuffie, right? If it was this is again kind of the same area, right? You see the massive cannon over here. There's against the weapons, so this is generally the same area. Probably we saw him running in. Again, this is kind of where you would meet Yuffie, right? Then of course you actually see her being played, right? But I do think, again, keep saying it, I really wonder how you're gonna recruit her, right? So in this scene, you can actually see them playing her. So she's probably playable. She's also playable in what's it called? FF7 Remake Integrated, right? Like kind of the PS5 version that comes later or whatever you want me. In that way you can play Yuffie, right? So it's also price. The Yuffie is playable because, of course, from a development standpoint, right? I talked about earlier, I worked in the game, right? From a development standpoint, you already have the code, right? You have the technical animations, you have also the models, right? So, of course, if she's playable in like the expansion or whatever, DLC, whatever you call it, then it's easy to make her playable in the sequel, right? So, no surprise there. But I missed how they're gonna make her join the team, right? So I wanna guess here that Yuffie, because we see several scenes here in this trailer, right? Pretty long trailer actually, yeah. After this scene, we see her and Cloud kind of hugging, or like she's hugging, but he's like he's grabbing her, kind of, I guess, avoiding an attack or whatever, right? So they clearly have her both as a playable character and also in cutscenes, right? That's kind of what I mean. Yeah, she's in cutscenes, not just a playable character. Because if she was only playable, and I want to put out a minute, right? If she was only playable, then I could see them going, for the same route where she's how I say it, not a mandatory party member, right? Like it was in the original game. But if they have it cutscenes, that means she's gonna be, you have to recruit her, right, to get the cutscenes, basically. So I'm thinking she's just gonna join you in the storyline, right? Yeah. Having specific cutscenes with her probably means that she will join you, forcibly join you. We should betray her then, probably. So the spoiler shit, yeah, she probably betray you still though. Yeah, she still will do the classic, betrayal, steal material, whatever. That's gonna happen later, right? Probably in this Rebirth. Yeah, probably in this one. But anyway, that's Yuffie bit. I think she's gonna be just recruited during the storyline. That being said, probably roughly the same place, right? Because if you look at this trailer, we don't see Yuffie at all in the first bit of like after Midgard, right? In the integrated version, she's kind of in Midgard or whatever. But in all the trailer bits of Yuffie, we never see her before the cave. So I still think she's gonna be, basically, as I mentioned earlier, after the cave is where you would normally meet her, right? When you play the game. So she's probably gonna join you by the storyline right after the cave. So she's probably joins at the same place though. Yeah, I think Yuffie is recruited very likely at the same place in the game. But now let's talk about some other scenes in the storyline, right? So this scene here has to be after you leave Midgard. So you leave Midgard, you have this village to the east, right? And this is before the cave and the Chocobos. So this is probably at this area. They're discussing Sephiroth and so on, right? And the general storyline seems to follow, of course, in the same bit, right? But I keep saying, though, is that I think that Aerith will be alive, right? We'll see more later on when you go into this other... the game will clearly have more of this, right? What I mean is that this is a scene, of course, in the original game. It's going to explain to you the Aerith is this thing, and blah, 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 you know what's Sephiroth is present. But the game clearly did a lot more of that in the remake, so I think we're going to have a lot more visualization of how the plant is destroying or whatever, right? Eating the Mako and so on, probably. But otherwise, I think the story has been kind of the same. But I keep saying that I really think the Aerith... So it's when I again break it down a little bit, right? Because as we see here, they are again changing her backstory a little bit. That they're changing how this works, right? With the Mako and the planet. We keep seeing it in this trailer too. And my guess is that the game probably ends when she dies. I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video. I think that's what's going to happen. That being said, though, when Aerith dies, it seems pretty far into the game. I mean, the game has a lot of scenes after that. Aerith actually dies pretty quickly if you play the original game, right? You know, you still haven't unlocked most of stuff in the game, the afterplay. We come into gameplay sooner, but oh yeah, I think the big question really is where will the game go, right? You know, how far will it go? Because one thing, which I talk about now then, is the gameplay, which I felt was lacking massively, of course, in the remake game, is the whole, you know, world exploration, the mini bosses, right? You know, just going around in the world, fighting Nazis around or whatever, right? Getting a Chocobo breeding and so on. It's a massive lack of like that classic, you know, Final Fantasy exploration, right? So you talk about video games, you can break it down into what's called fun factors. And one of them is called exploration then, or like discovery, right? So you go around in the world, you go and find the different bosses and find secret items, you know what I mean, so on. And that was completely lacking, right, in Remake, because you only need Midgard. And then it also lacked this, the classic, you know, Final Fantasy bosses, right? Of course, in FF7, you have Ruby Weapon, Emerald, so on, right? Diamond. And that's a classic thing, right? And in Remake, you had a little Shinra VR thing, but even at that, it was way too easy, and that was actually my biggest complaint with the game, straight up, right? It was way too easy, the game. It's really even hard, it was really easy. But I also felt it was so weird that you used the VR Shinra thing, why couldn't you, like, just drop 10 more bosses there, you know what I mean? Compared to FF10, right? You have the camp, like, why couldn't you have, like, 10 more bosses in there? Just throw in more enemies to challenge you. And I felt that the gameplay, right, the fights in FF7 Remake is really good, but there's like no challenge to it. There's like no hard bosses. But anyway, let's go into some of the... They seem to add a lot of this stuff, right? The characters are jumping around together. They're doing more... Yeah, they seem to add a lot of like combos to it. Like you can like command them to attack at the same time, I guess. So they're clearly expanding. But still, you can see a lot of this combo thing. So I'm guessing that you have some kind of command where you can ask them to together do stuff, right? And that can be interesting. If it depends on how... It depends on how like it works. Will it be you can pick any two abilities, do X, do Y, two characters, and they do it together and nothing happens? Or is it like you can only do these two? I guess an example would be Suikoden. So you play Suikoden, 1 to 5, whatever. In those games you have 108 characters, a lot of characters to play. And every character has some kind of like synergy combos with certain other characters. Not with every other character, but basically like in Suikoden 2 you can have the Kung Fu girl and her master, also a Kung Fu guy. So they can do this like White Tiger Kung Fu combo together, right? So instead of, it's a turn-based game, you can spend both their turns to do like a white combo thing, right? And they do like extra damage. The main character and his sister has this, you know, combo thing, right? And some combo things like the Shiro the Wolf and his master, the Archer girl, then becomes an AoE attack when he runs through enemies and all, right? So you get other properties too. Either other properties, or you get higher damage or whatever, right? But it costs you both characters' turn. So that's probably the easiest way to mess up with this, right? Where, okay, Yuffie and Red can do this thing. She's gonna, you know, ride on Red and they're gonna run around and she'll cut them, whatever. And it's like a set combo, right? I guess something like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Trigger, right? You can have like Luca can give you a fire and Chrono spins around with a fire sword, right? Like that kind of thing. That's what I feel they're probably going with, because it probably won't be like free combination of abilities, but it's really nice, you know. Like maybe Aerith can, you know, throw like a lightning to Cloud and he can get like a lightning sword or something like that, right? And I don't mean like an actual like cutting with lightning, more at like a spinning attack with lightning, right? Something like that, but also maybe it's buffs or whatever. But yeah, I think they go more for that. Have they changed the gameplay otherwise that much? I don't think, anything I see here, I don't think they're gonna change the actual combat mechanics that much, right? And I think, I keep saying it, but I actually think the strongest thing of FF7 Remake was the combat, right? But also not at all, so it's a little weird. But what I mean, as I mentioned earlier, is that FF7 Remake had really good combat, but they lacked bosses, right? I keep saying it lacked the actual challenge. So the gameplay is really good. The actual how it flows and everything is fantastic. But then you have no hard bosses in the game. There's no challenge. There's like Leviathan is like, oh, I died like twice in the whole game, even on hard, I think. And the first time was Leviathan because, you know, he does this wave thing and it like insta kills you. But then you know that, so you put on your shell and then you're fine, right? It's kind of cheap, most of that. But what I mean is that the problem, Leviathan goes have a bit. The problem with Leviathan is that he does like no damage to you, even on hard, at all. So you take like 1 health per attack, right? And suddenly he does 10,000 damage and you die. And that to me is actually straight up bad game design, because you sit in there being like, oh, this was super easy. You know, why would I throw this or that or whatever? You know, why would I use the fancy magic? It's just so easy anyway. So if he did way more damage, actually, it would be probably more streamlined. It'd be okay, buff whatever. But it is kind of weird in that game, right? So I don't think they're gonna change that much of the actual combat mechanics. Not that I see here, at least. The only thing I can see is the combos, right? Kind of Chrono Trigger or whatever. Yeah, I see the combination of characters. But what I think they're gonna do, hopefully, right, is make the enemies more interesting. And yeah, the whole lightning element thing is okay as well, but it's a little too straightforward. So I think they're gonna change that up probably more, how the enemies are. Like, you know, one thing I think about Final Fantasy, right, is FF13, for example, and FF12 and so on. The FF13 and the most probably had a really good system and all the hunts, you know. Oh, this guy is magic immune, this guy is physical immune, this boss does this thing and so on. I think they did really well how all these bosses worked in that game. All these like mini bosses right on the sideline. And I think this game should do more of that. And hopefully then, come to it now then, but we have the... Okay, so the biggest change I'm doing here last, right, in the video is actually, of course, the world exploration. Cloud is like the sun, you know, yeah, here, Midgard, right? And I think here is where the game really has to deliver. Even though I'm kind of on the fence, right, with the combo system, I guess I like it, but also too easy. But the biggest issue, though, with Remake, right, was the lack of exploration. I keep saying it. And here is for the game, and we see a lot of it in this trailer, and now we sort of Midgard, I think we have to have a lot more of this, right? And it has to be more free too. I don't want to have this, I don't like the whole, you know, here's a quest, do a quest, right? I mean, sometimes, but I'd rather have, like, look at Elden Ring, you know? Here's an open world, just go wherever you want, you know? I'd rather have that, right? Than this whole, like, the fetch quest or whatever, right? And FF7 and most Final Fantasy games doesn't actually have that many quests, right? Think about it. Final Fantasy has never really been a franchise where they have, quests. It's more like you have to do something-ish, right? So they're not like a specific UI thing, press this button, twisting. For example, FF10, to get Kimari's spear, Gungnir, you have to jump the lightning bolt 200 times, right? It's super annoying, but you have to do that thing. Remember that. And, I mean, it's a quest in the sense that someone tells you this myth, right? But it's not really a quest as in, you know, something pops up in the UI saying go and jump lightning bolts, right? And I think the game needs more of that, which is kind of explore the world and figure it out, you know what I mean? FF7 Remake felt very modern in that sense. It was kind of like fetch quests, go there, do this thing, come back here. And I hope that's been reduced. See, I mean here I feel excited, right? The game is actually probably be very massive. Yeah, FF7 Remake was very massive size on your PlayStation. And I heard that this game is probably only PS5 exclusive. So it's probably gonna be like 100 gigabytes. This is what I mean, at open world, right? Yeah, we're getting out. You never see a lot more running around in this game, right? And this is kind of what I want, you know, honestly. This is, again, I keep saying, this is what I want the most. I want more of this. Okay, where should I go now in this forest? Can I go up? Can I go down? I don't want that, you know, catacombs linear thing at all. Even though I like FF13, but I think FF13, right, people also whine about that game, but FF13 is, yes, it's very, very linear until you reach Pulse, and then you have this big planet, right, where you can do all the stuff. And FF7 Remake, you basically only have the first part, and you don't get the second part. So hey, I guess Rebirth, I hope, is like Pulse, right? You know, you get the Pulse now. Yeah, because the first bit was like only... the first part was like purely that part. Chocobos. So the way it works in the audio game is that Chocobos are basically introduced to you after you leave Midgard. You have to think about it in the original game. Leaving Midgard takes like 5-6 hours, maybe maximum 10 hours, yeah. It's much faster, right? You do some stuff and then you outside of it, right? And then you meet this Chocobo stable, I guess it's called, yeah. And then you have this snake boss that's pretty hard, or you can kind of avoid it with the Chocobo, so it's a thing, right? And that introduces you, yeah, that's the start of like breeding Chocobos, right? But you can't do much at the beginning of the game, but that's kind of how it starts. And then, of course, you can breed them up and get the gold and the distant blue and so on. And I really do hope that this is going to return, right? I really miss that in Remake. It's a very classic thing, right? Chocobo racing and the whole breeding them and getting the better colors and so on. It's a classic Final Fantasy thing, right? We have it in FF9 as well, is that right? FF13 2, whatever, right? It's very iconic fantasy thing. Also, this thing here, I have like a fun side story. I probably told it in all the videos, but when I played FF9, the second time or third time or whatever, I was really into the hot-cold minigame right immediately. And I remember I caused like a bug in the game that no one's ever seen before, but I caused a bug, and maybe this is so back in the days I didn't have like a capture card, but I caused a massive bug. So what I did was that I did hot and cold, right? Chocobos, and I breeded them, and I got, you know, the blue, red, black, whatever, right? And I managed to get the gold one. Like, I think the earliest you could do, right? And I did all the hot and cold finding immediately, as soon as you could, right, basically. And if you find the one in the water, which is hard to find. I remember the first was a kid that went around and picked around the water. But that gives you Zidane's best weapon, ultimate weapon, so which is, he makes him OP as hell. Yes, Jesus Christ, does FF9 get easy if you do Chocobos very early and get his weapon at level 10 or whatever. I don't know, the level 20 or whatever. So yeah, he one-shots everything. So that's one thing for that matter. If you do Chocobos in FF9 immediately and keep doing it fast as you can, right, you're gonna get his weapon immediately. And he's gonna basically one-shot every enemy, which is kind of insane. But the bigger issue, that's not a bug, that's a feature. That's a feature, yeah. The bigger issue was that I managed to then get, right, the gold Chocobo, or whatever, the best Chocobo, so I can fly and so on, right? So now, I could go and fly to the continents before I had the airship. Something like that. So it was like really buggy. So I managed to get to that Orcleon place, and when I never got the airship, you know, I never got the Sid's airship, right? And then I did the dungeon, where you can do later after you get the airship. I can still trigger the dungeon. So I did the dungeon, then I left the dungeon, and then I just had the airship. It was just standing there, and now I couldn't go and see the cutscenes and get the airship and so on. So I basically like skipped over like a few hours of the game or something. I managed to like, yeah, made it make him buggy, and he just gave me, the game set me to like, you here now. The game just forced me to like, you know, I skipped like 5 hours of the game. I don't know, it was really weird. So I still managed to beat that game in that play state, but I guess what happened was that because I, you know, killed a boss or whatever in the dungeon, the game was like, oh, you were at state 20 now, whatever, right there. But actually I was like 14, 15, so I skipped over like 5 hours of storyline. So, but anyway, let's go back to the... So you see a lot of this running around, right? But I think that what you can do here, and hopefully again, is it is much open. And it's not the most obvious thing ever. Yeah, it's open now, it's not catacombs anymore. But really, because what I'm afraid of, honestly, right? Even if this looks like an open mountain or whatever, you know, you have this thing, right? Also the forest, I do think, honestly, that part of this, like, open world will still be kind of linear. The forest is very likely is linear. You're running in, you know, like in a trail in the forest, you can go either left or right. And here it looks more open because it's like a mountain, hilltop or whatever. But I still wonder if the game won't be kind of still like, oh, you have to run over here or something, and, you know, you maybe over there. Yeah, it's a little bit like... I don't think it's a break, or I don't think that's what's gonna break the game, be terrible or whatever. But I just keep saying that the whole exploration, right, and the whole thing is that you need to have more bosses. You need to have a little more side stuff to do, right? And you want little options, and so on, right? Talked about earlier, Yuffie probably just join you, probably have that thing, and haven't got. So the video ends, right, in Tifa's home village. Let's talk about that. Yeah, it's coming to Tifa, where she's from. And this is the classic, she's a cowboy girl and so on, if you look at the old games, yeah. This is usually you wear a cowboy outfit, cowboy Tifa is from this place. And this is where, what I'm thinking here more so, I mean, it's obviously the scene where she's like, you killed my dad and so on, yeah. So I mean, she's like, it was Tuesday for me, but whatever. What I'm thinking more, it's Vincent gonna be playable, right? That is my bigger, yeah, honestly, it's Vincent, Sid. Because this is kind of close to when Vincent and also Sid, I suppose, but mostly Vincent, right, will be picked up in the storyline. And that's what I'm wondering, because I keep saying it, right? Because one of my biggest complaints, right, was that Red wasn't playable in the previous game, and that's why people were like defending it, saying that, oh, but you get him so late. But yeah, but you still have all the mini bosses, you have the Shinra VR and so on. He should have been playable because you still have all the extra bosses you can do with him, whatever, right? So I think that was a bad thing, kind of lazy. And I do feel that Vincent and Sid will probably pop up in this game, right? In the end of this game, at least. The game definitely should go at least that far. And then, of course, the question is, will they be playable? Or are they going to be the same thing? Then you find Vincent in the end, and then the game ends, or he's like joining you, but he's not an actual playable character. But I really do think it's a big question of how long will the game go, right? And I said earlier, I do think we get at least Aerith's death. That's where the game should end at bare minimum, because it's gonna be the cliffhanger, right? And then we get into so I do think you're gonna pick up both. I feel you should be able to pick up both of them, right? But it's really important to get into where it dies to. Not because she has to die, but it's important getting to that, that place, because it's so much about the materia and the meteor and so on. So I think we need to kind of do a full circle on, the lore and so on. So I think we need to get to that place in this game, and I do think we should pick up all the other characters, really, even if we don't see them in the trailer. Again, the trailer is very focused on mostly the beginning of, right? Of just, like I said earlier, kind of the cave, and this scene is much later, right? Yeah, this is definitely, I think, the late. I mean, it might be a flashback, but I don't know. No, this feels like the scene that is by far the furthest into the game. Now, this doesn't exist in the original game because it's kind of like another Sephiroth Tifa scene. It might be early, I suppose, because it's referring to a flashback. Yeah, it's a little bit. Think about it. When this taking place, I feel it's her home. She's referring to that, but it might actually be early in the game, right? Because she's like flashbacking to her dad. I suppose, perhaps, right? When I think about it, but I still feel we're gonna go to Golden Saucer. We're gonna get that stuff right. Even if the trailer only shows you basically the first two cities after Midgard. Those are only the few. In the original version, right? That's only a few hours. Like you get Chocobos, that's like less than an hour. You get to the next city, that's like you see the weapon, the shooting, and so on. That's like what 2-3 hours. You know what I mean? Yeah, that is very short in that game. And then you get to Golden Saucer and so on, and go to the Costa and so on. Yeah, so I think this trailer is just only showing us the first few hours of the game, right? Mostly. This scene here fits at the last scene, right? And the question is, again, with Vincent, I think it's important because he's also, a character you don't have to play him, right? He's also a character you can miss in the original game. And that's something I talked about the Yuffie earlier, but I do kind of miss that, This is like angry old man, but it's like back in the days, I prefer that you can miss characters. You know what I mean? I prefer that the game allows you to do mistakes, right? Like with Yuffie and so on, that you can miss her and then come later and so on anyway. But it does feel like I just can't see this game allowing you to miss Vincent or Yuffie, and I think that's a little bit about this game is mainstream, this game is so popular. Final Fantasy is the JRPG flagship, whatever, and they probably won't allow you to miss characters like Yuffie, so right, and Vincent either. So I don't know, but I always liked it in those old games, right? You have to you have to take this code to get Vincent. He's this zombie guy underneath everything, and you have to do all this stuff, and that was really interesting. And I think that hopefully that is still there, right? I really want Vincent to be a character. You have to actually unlock him. I really want that. Really want that for my general gameplay. Even though it's not a big secret, because I've done it, of course, several times. But I honestly, a little bit angry old man here, but I do feel a little bit like that kind of stuff is being less and less common in modern games, because it's so much people being, going on Twitter or whatever, being like, oh, I missed a character, shit game, bad review. But I think there's a big reason why, honestly, because not only because it's so mainstream and blah blah easier, but also that the companies, and I speak from experience here, right, because I work in the industry, that companies are so afraid of getting backlash. Even backlash like a hidden character, because they're like, oh, it's terrible, I couldn't find a character, shitty game, where's my favorite character? It's very, very common. Like, I won't go into this video too much here, and I'm talking a little bit from experience, right? I've worked in the video game industry for many years, and I've seen it myself, and I won't into it here to another video, links below for that, but I've seen, for example, in one game, I was the lead designer, and also then the writer of the game. Just also happened to write the game storyline. It wasn't really my main thing, but I also did it. And there was the same thing there. It was like, first everyone loved the storyline, and I did it here. Then I wrote something that people felt offensive or whatever, right, or shocking or whatever. And then it was like, we're gonna censor that. And I was like, why? It's a good storyline. You like it? And they're like, oh, but what if someone on Twitter doesn't like it? And I'm like, yeah, okay. We probably sell more games than that. If anything, I think it's kind of funny, because in our game, especially in this company I work for, I won't say exactly here, of course, because I don't wanna. But basically, there was a smaller company, right? And I'll ask you here, if you had any backlash on the storyline in that game, I think they would have made us sell more copies, right? Because the game company wasn't that famous. It was like somewhat, but not massive, super big famous. So I think that would actually be better. But anyway, I talked about the video, but the whole storyline I wrote for the main character was basically removed by the CEO, because they were so afraid of that there were going to be a backlash, on Twitter or whatever. So they censored everything on the characters, and it's a much longer story. But I've seen it more than once in my life where especially the Western companies, are so afraid of any backlash, right? And I really do think that even Square Enix is like, oh no, but we can't have Vincent be maybe you can miss Yuffie, missing Yuffie, because people are gonna complain on the internet and we're gonna sell less copies and so on. But I feel it kind of devalues a bit of the gameplay, right? Not having those kind of mechanics anymore of how do you recruit this character or whatever. It's weird to me, but I honestly think that Vincent is gonna be also streamlined into the character party, right? I think so. I don't think you're gonna be able to walk past Vincent and get him. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Yeah, please subscribe, please a like button. That kind of breaks down the video here. But I just think about it. Oh no, you're never gonna get Vincent. Just like Yuffie. And like I said earlier in the video, Yuffie definitely is just gonna join your party, because there seems to be no random encounter. So how else would it work with Yuffie? I guess you could potentially run around in that area, and she will like randomly appear or something in that like the world, something like that, right? But it really seems far-fetched. And again, when I saw her cutscene earlier, Yuffie is not gonna be random, no. Then it wouldn't have like a straight up cutscene with her, right? That she has cutscenes means that she's gonna be recruitable forcibly. You can't miss her. Potentially, maybe you can do a different order. Potentially, you have to, because it is an open world, you can maybe do other stuff before, right? But yeah, you can't miss Yuffie. I can't see it happening. But anyway, guys, please have a great day. I think we'll do a bit lower after this, so see you guys.